So we are a research institution based in China, 2 hours away from Shanghai with a bullet train. And all we are doing is logistics and supply chain management research. And as we are doing that, we are also part of MIT's Global Scale Network. This is an initiative that was started by MIT like 20 years ago. And the aim was to build actually a global network of research institutions which are purely focusing on logistics and supply chain related topics. The key problem we saw there is that everything was kind of static. I mean, we do our modeling, we have done some visualizations like matplotlib visualizations and so on, but this is something rather static, and this needs to be updated over and over again if you are running your model with different parameters. And then eventually we were reporting the results also then in the PowerPoint slide deck, which is also again static. And this made this process so cumbersome. So in the end, this interactive visualization, especially Dash Enterprise, which is rendering everything perfectly for you immediately on any device, helps us simply to report our findings in an easier way and in a way that everybody can understand in a web browser. Other than that, it helps us to overcome the lack of transparency, actually, right? As I said, the user can directly parameterize the models, interact with them, and this is perfectly Dash Enterprise is perfectly capable to do that. And lastly, I have to say the Dash Enterprise one compared to the open source one, which we also used before, has one more advantage. It allows us researchers to actually develop these applications by ourselves. And we do not need a dedicated front-end IT department for that with 5 or 6 front-end developers who are dealing with visualization. So actually we could also kind of deliver the products that we are developing for our industry partners with a reasonable headcount, let's say. And what was special to this project is because these container loading platforms are available out there, but our industry partner insisted on having also a nice interface that can be used in the warehouse actually by the workers in order to really execute the plan. A big problem in container loading or loading in general is that you can come up with a plan, a nice looking plan, but if the worker in the warehouse is not executing it, your plan will not work. It will not fit into the box most likely. And very often they are doing this experience-based, and they wanted to avoid that. So we developed an interface for this as well, which is included in the app I'm going to show. In that regard, they can simply load the different containers that we need. So in that case, we get around for loading everything into one container in one big box. They simply select the container, and then they have here on the left-hand side a nice looking 3D plot of the container with all the different purchase orders in different colors that they can distinguish between them. It's interactive, of course. We use the Dash VTK for that purpose. And they also see then here, and here we use the Dash Design Kit with the data cards. They see some KPIs for the containers. So what is our utilization rate? How many purchase orders do we have in there? How many boxes and how many pallets? And lastly, we are leveraging again the Dash AG grid on the right-hand side here, where you see for every SKU, which pallet should be used. So what dimension do we need? And how many boxes are going into the pallet? And this is now where we are also enabling the workers in the warehouse actually to get some support during the loading process by simply having here some checkboxes. So they can actually go through this loading plan one by one and receive on the bottom here further information, which helps them to palletize. So palletization looks easy, but it's kind of cumbersome in reality. It's like playing Tetris. They get some information regarding the pallets they need, the utilization, how many boxes go in there, and also a 2D representation from the top to see the loading pattern, as well as here again a 3D visual. And they can go then basically one by one through the different pallets and simply get the job done. And this is what we prepared here with some inbound views that you can have a look at. How do we bring in the stuff into the country? And also from an outbound perspective, so delivering to our customers, we take a look at their historical data from different angles, right? So more a sales-driven view in the demand pages, warehouse-driven views to get a glance of the warehouse activities, the full distribution network, but also things like delivery performance to see whether there's a pain point, right? Do we have a certain customer where we do not meet the expected lead time requirements from them? And then the question is why, right? Here is just an example for the warehouse views. For one of the, as I said, dummy data. Of course, I cannot share the real one, but it's kind of representative, where we aligned with our industry partners how this page actually should look like. So they wanted to have a high-level overview of the KPIs. So how much sales do we make from this warehouse per year? How many orders do we have? How many deliveries? How many order lines do we pick in the warehouse? And from which business units do we get the parts? And this is all interactive. So this is nothing static. That's good. And they can actually directly change everything here in a control panel. So they could, for instance, say, okay, we want to take a look at a different warehouse. We want to filter down in a certain division or business unit or so. So that is then interactive, and they can really deep dive and kind of sleep with their data, let's say.
Through these applications and leveraging Dash and Dash Enterprise, for your team, you've been able to build up applications a lot more quickly and to focus more on the data stuff, while also empowering your partner organizations to get more value from their data in turn. So I think it's a very powerful and real world, applicable and just amazing solution. So well done. Basically some problems were there was a lack of transparency in your data. You're working with static data solutions that were just becoming cumbersome. And there was a lot of scope creep that you were seeing as well with these custom Python scripts and models that you were building up. So by parameterizing those and enacting a sleek front end with Dash, we're able to leverage, again, the complexity of your data stack while also enabling non-technical end users to get the full value of their data. So end result, as we've seen it, is, as we talk about today, 3 times increase in target users among your organization of this application, and therefore of the value that this application is bringing. A 15% more efficiency when it comes to the first organization in our LCL example, being able to load pallets into a container, and then also seeing a 12% enhancement approximately for that second application in terms of next day deliveries, which I think, again, is very tangible. And I think everyone in the chat today can understand the pain of getting a package 2 days in the future versus tomorrow.